So this is the OG original Samsung Galaxy Fold, and this is the new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. And just check out how thin this Fold 7 is compared to this first Galaxy Fold. But even when you compare it to last year's Z Fold 6, it is very noticeable. But something that's just as impressive as the thinness of this phone is going to be how little it weighs. So you can see me putting it on this scale versus the Galaxy Z Fold 6, and you can see that scale drop because this Fold 7 only weighs 215 grams compared to the 239 grams of the Fold 6. And then if you want to go a step further, this thing is 3 grams lighter than the Galaxy S25 Ultra that comes in at 218 grams. And then when you unfold this new Z Fold 7, you can see that it's even thinner. And I compared it to some credit cards and also a little pen on the table. You can really see the leap in the thinness and design that Samsung has made with this Fold 7. But when you also compare it to the Fold 6, just in general, how the phones feel, I can say that this Fold 7 does make this Fold 6 feel like a true last generation device. And I can't say that about every phone these days coming from Samsung, Apple, whoever, because sometimes it does feel like they have the same outer shell. They make a few improvements to the design, but nothing as drastic as what we get here with the Fold 7 versus the Fold 6. So that is impressive. But also what's impressive is that now we do have some bigger displays on this phone as well. And so this outside display comes in at 6.5 inches versus the 6.3 inches on the Fold 6. And it still runs at 120 hertz, looks really good, but you just have more screen real estate here. And it feels more like a traditional slab phone where you don't feel as cramped with the previous candy bar designs that Samsung has had on this Fold series. But when you do unfold it, now you do have a bigger 8-inch display compared to the 7.6-inch display on the Z Fold 6. So yeah, just like the outside display, it just feels less cramped when you are trying to do more things on this screen. And it still runs at 120 hertz. And also the crease is still there, but it's even less noticeable this year. And like I've been saying ever since the original Galaxy Fold, the crease is really just mostly noticeable at an angle, and especially if the light hits it just right. But if you are looking straight down on the screen, which you are typically doing, the crease is not going to be a problem for you. But the most noticeable part of the decrease in the crease, say that 3 times fast, is when you are moving your finger over the crease here, it does feel less like a dip in the road compared to previous versions. But there are 2 noticeable changes with the screen this year versus the Z Fold 6. The first one will be the camera that's on the screen. So for the past couple of iterations, they have been using their UDC camera, their under display camera technology, which helps hide it on the screen. So when you are watching videos and stuff on the screen, it really doesn't get in the way that much. But they went back to the regular kind of punch hole camera here because of quality differences, because this will allow them to give you better quality with the camera versus the under display camera technologies. Now, I'm still a fan of the under display camera, and I still think it is the future, and they'll eventually get back to that point. But I like that they just kind of bit the bullet and went back with better quality for now until they can get that UDC camera technology up to par. Now, the second change about the screen is the most talked about these days, and that's the fact that it does not support the S Pen anymore. So the Z Fold 6 had S Pen support, so you can draw, write, take notes, do whatever you wanted to do on the screen, but now you don't have that with this phone anymore. And so this lack of S Pen support might just be like a sacrifice for them just trying to make this phone super thin, and eventually they'll get back to adding the S Pen support later on down the road. But the good thing is that if you just really want that, you can always still get the Fold 6 and probably at a way better deal as far as the price these days. But outside of those 2 changes with this screen, this still is a fantastic screen for multitasking, for watching videos and movies, for just browsing the web, but also most importantly for me is for gaming, because I think Samsung doesn't advertise this enough, but this screen is great for gaming, especially when you pair it with a mobile gaming controller like the Backbone Pro that I have here. And so I'm able to play Call of Duty and also playing Diablo, which my friend has been trying to get me to play for a while, but I've been playing the mobile version on this game on this phone a lot. I'm pretty addicted to it at this point, but just having this extra screen real estate with some physical controls really is a game changer, and it really stacks up well compared to a lot of other mobile gaming solutions out there. And remember, you can still use game streaming services coming from Xbox and Nvidia to be able to get some console games on this as well. But yeah, this is a really good gaming powerhouse because of this extra really big screen that you can always just put in your pocket. Now, I do have to mention this is that when you do want to get access to this bigger screen, opening up this phone takes a little bit more focus than what I would want, because it is so thin. You're trying to like get your thumbs in here to be able to get it open really easily. And so I wish that Samsung probably would have just added like a little indentation here in the side of the frame to be able to allow your meat of your thumb or your finger to be able to get in there to open it up a little bit easier. Now, one solution to make this easier is that you can always add a case to the phone, and that will make it a lot easier to open. And another benefit of adding a case to the phone is that it does help decrease the wobbliness, if that is a word, but the phone just basically wobbles wobbles a lot when it's on a desk because you have a bigger camera module on the back of the phone, because we do have better cameras this year. So with the phone closed, very significant. But when you do open the phone up without a case, it's not as bad, especially on the left side, but on the right side, you still get a little bit. But again, add a case to it, and that won't completely get rid of it, but it does help. Now, speaking of the camera bump, let's go ahead and talk about the cameras on this Fold 7. So Samsung did advertise an ultra experience coming to this phone, and I will say that it is better, but it's not quite the same Samsung Galaxy S25 ultra experience. You don't have space zoom, and also when you're using like log video, you can only record up to 4K 60, where with the ultra, you can record up to 4K 120. But outside of those things, you are getting a quality of life improvement compared to the Fold 6, and also it does compare nicely with the ultra when it comes to just using the main wide angle camera, which now does come in at 200 megapixels. So if you're not quite sure how you want to frame up your shot, you can take a 200 megapixel photo with this, and then you can crop in, pinch and zoom, whatever you want to do to get closer in the photo, and you're still going to get way better quality than using like the 12 megapixel mode that you can on this phone. But of course, you can still take advantage of the 10 megapixel telephoto camera on this phone, or you can also use the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, which has autofocus, which makes it really good for taking macro shots to get really up and close on something. And remember, you have a lot of cameras on this phone. So you have the 3 cameras on the back, and you also do have a selfie camera here on the cover display on the front. And then also when you do unfold it, you have that camera that I talked about on the main bigger display. And because this is a regular punch hole camera, this does come in at 10 megapixels and also has an 100-degree field of view, so you can get more into the shot. So it's 17.6 times wider and also 2.5 times clearer if you want those technical details, but just a better camera versus the Fold 6 is the easy way to put it. Now you're also getting advanced noise analysis, and also you're getting 10-bit HDR, and just a really all-around good camera experiences. So I can say, from someone who's been daily driving the S25 Ultra here for the past couple of months, these cameras on this phone don't make me feel like I'm like missing out as much as I did in the past with the Ultra versus Fold series when it came to the camera. So I'm happy about that, but I still do miss space zoom from time to time. Now, I was pretty happy with the videos that I was able to take with this phone. Most of the videos that I'm showing you here were taken at 4K 60 frames per second, but you can still do 8K video at 30 frames per second as well. I wish that was eventually bumped up to 60 frames per second, but we're at 30 frames per second. Then when taking this camera out at night, I was happy with the photos and the videos too. Samsung has made some improvements and stuff with the software optimization sensor and stuff like that. But yeah, during the day, at night, this camera performs super well. And then it's also just fun to take photos and videos with this phone because it is foldable, and you can fold it in a way to where now you can place it on a table or on the ground, and then now get creative with the shots that you want to take, because you can use the camera on the main display, or you can use the rear facing cameras and be all hands free. And then you can still use the cover screen to be able to allow someone to see themselves while you're taking a photo of them and looking at the main display. So now they'll be able to look into the camera, get their hair all ready, and then now they can give you the okay to take the shot. All right, so let's talk about battery life, because when I was out taking a lot of photos and videos during my time with this phone so far, or also just playing games and stuff, the battery life has actually been good. And I think on average, what I've seen from other people who have done like stress tests between this phone and the Fold 6 and other Fold phones is that you're getting about 30 minutes or so more time when just using this phone compared to something like the Fold 6. Now, again, that does depend on what you're doing. If you are playing a lot of games and stuff, that will decrease your battery life. But just from my personal experience, the easiest way I can put it is that I was not worried about the battery running out during a normal day of use for me, someone who plays games for a couple of hours, taking photos and videos and stuff. And so that's all good, because this does have the same size battery as the Fold 6. So it comes in at 4,400 milliamp hours. So even though they made this phone practically half as thin as the other phone here, you have the same size battery. But I'm willing to bet that because this phone does have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset inside of it, and also because I am using this bigger display less than I was in the past, because the outside cover display is bigger, so I feel less cramped, so I will be using that more. And this cover display does use less battery than the bigger display, so that will help with the battery life. But we do have to mention that Samsung does have competition, not here really in the US, but all over the world, that are using better battery technology in their phones. So they're able to actually make a thinner phone than this, but also put a bigger battery capacity, some around like 5,000 or 5,500 milliamp hours, which is pretty impressive. But Samsung elected this year to not go with that. And look, we all know that Samsung could have added the technology in their phones because they have the technical know-how, but I think they are being strategic, because I think the biggest selling factor of this Fold 7 is the design. It is the thinness of the phone, and that practically sells itself. But next year, they'll probably add the battery technology. And because you might get a significant increase in battery life, that can make someone who already has the Fold 7 might want to upgrade to that Fold 8 because of that increased battery life. So I do get this from a business perspective, but as a consumer and also just a tech reviewer, I would like to have seen Samsung kind of keep up with the rest of the market when it comes to this battery technology, especially when we feel that they can. Now, one thing that isn't ultra with the battery with this phone is just the charging speed. So wired, it still is only 25 watts, and also wireless, it comes in at 15 watts. And you still do have the wireless power share feature, so you can place like some wireless earbuds that do have a wireless charging case on them and charge them. But yeah, I do want faster charging speeds with this phone. And also I do wish that this phone did have the Qi 2 wireless charging standard, so I would be able to have MagSafe capabilities all built into the phone without needing a MagSafe compatible case. But I know Samsung had to make some compromises with the thinness of this phone, so I'm not too mad at it, because also there are other regular style slab phones that don't have that standard either. But next year I will be keeping my fingers crossed for that. But one thing I did experience is that because of the size of the camera module, all of my MagSafe accessories will not work with this particular phone. Like this power bank just falls off. So some worked, some didn't, so just kind of be aware of that. All right, so let's talk about software. So this phone does ship with One UI 8 and also Android 16 out of the box, and both of these are a good combination of software. I've had no problem with the way the phone feels. It flows very well, very snappy, especially with that Snapdragon 8 Elite processor. So super happy with the software performance this year. I do have this Noun Brief app, which I've been using with the S25 Ultra, but it's here on the Fold 7, which is great just to kind of get an idea of what your day is going like in the morning, midday, and also at night. And it kind of gives you things like YouTube videos you might want to watch, or if you have calendar appointments and different things coming up, it can take care of that. And also maybe like you're going on a trip, it can actually see that and recommend that you turn on Find My Phone or whatever it's called on Android. So if you do lose your phone, you'll be able to locate it. And of course, AI is all throughout the thing. So you can press on this power button to be able to access that. And also you can share your screen with Google Gemini Live now. So be able to see what's going on your screen and then also give you information about it. And also Google Gemini is going to be optimized for this bigger folder display. So no matter if you're using it on the smaller outside screen or on the inside screen, it's going to take advantage of this extra screen real estate. And they've also added a useful feature when you are editing a photo on this phone and you are using their generative editing here. So when I do want to like remove something from a photo, like I'm going to remove my friend Jojo here. So I'm gonna tap on him, hit this little eraser button, and it will go ahead and get prepared for it. And then I'll go ahead and hit generate. And now it's going to remove him from the photo with me and Dan Housen. So it's just me and my boy there. So eventually, boom, it will pop up. And one new feature this year is the fact that one, look how good that is, but also you can show the original photo side by side here. And then as you pinch in and zoom, you can really see the difference in the editing there and just how well this is really good and has advanced over the years. So I'm pretty happy with this. Now that photo was a landscape photo, but this side by side feature definitely looks better when you are using it comparing like two portrait photos. So when I do this now, you can see it does take up a little bit more of the screen, which just allows me to, again, look how impressive this technology is these days. Really nice. But one thing I wish is that you could use this side by side editing feature when you are just doing different things like changing up the brightness or the color temperature or different kind of basic edits like that. You can't do this side by side, but I wish they did add that. And so those are just some of the highlight software features for me. Of course, there's a bunch of other stuff like Audio Eraser that you can use now for like voice recordings and stuff like that. But overall, One UI 8 is great. The widgets are really nice. It's a really good addition to Android 16. And this phone as a whole is just a great phone. And I think the work that Samsung has put into this phone as a complete package, just not with the design of the phone, because there are thinner phones out there from competitors, especially outside of the US. But along with that, they've added a really good complete software package with some really good camera support and just the overall vibe that Samsung brings in their ecosystem with all of their products. Oh, and before I forget, Samsung has made this phone tougher too, even though it's thinner. So you do have this armor flex hinge. Also, you have a water droplet design. So the hinge itself is just going to be way more durable. And this does have Gorilla Glass Victus 2 and stuff. So yeah, it should be a pretty tough phone. I'm kind of debating whether or not I'm always going to have a case on this phone because I just love the way it feels without a case. You really get that sense of thinness with it. But adding that carbon fiber case is the next best thing as far as keeping it really thin. And you also don't want to drop it because this phone does cost $2,000. So that price is always going to be up to you whether or not you think it's worth it. But if you want something that's like a mini tablet that you can always have with you along with your smartphone, that price might be justified for you. But let me know down in the comments what you think about the price. Now, one thing I'm actually just now thinking about is that I wish that Samsung did have a FE version of this Fold 7, just like they do now have with the Galaxy Z Flip 7. And so the FE version will give you some of the new features and things, but at a lower price because it will be missing some of the higher end stuff. So if Samsung was to do that with this Fold 7, I think that would be good. So if not this year, hopefully next year with the Fold 8. But if you do want to buy this phone does come in 3 main colors. So I have the blue shadow, but it also comes in jet black and silver. And then they do have an exclusive mint color that's only available on Samsung's website. And for storage configurations, it starts at 256 gigabytes, and then you can go up to 512 gigabytes or up to 1 terabyte. But I do think for $2,000, they should start at 512 gigabytes in my opinion. And so with that being said, that is a very risky toss in the air, but I did it without dropping it. This has been my review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this phone. And also check out the description of this video. I have some links leading to this phone if you want to check that out even more. But yeah, like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.